It'll never not
Every
be funny to
time.
me. Every time, it's gonna make me smile every time. Hey, this is Shane and Drew coming at you with the 40K podcast, where we're gonna talk more 40K because it's the fucking name of it. If you're here for something else, I don't know what to tell you. You're in the wrong place. Or
We
if you think
failed
this
you.
is if you think this is the Spanish version of 40K, again, wrong place, and I apologize. I know no Spanish to help you go somewhere else, so figure it out. Anyways,
You're doing a great job here. Keep going.
I'm banging it out. Drew, I got a question for you. Before this episode today, we're going to talk about our best and our worst games. But before we go to that,
Hmm.
I think I like starting our show off with a little bit of positivity. And I'm going to ask you, what is your invulnerable save today? What's protecting you from the world?
Mine is so we have our back porch. We have this like security light that's right above the door.
Okay.
And for the whole week so far, these two damn birds keep trying to build a nest on the light, but they're doing a shitty job. And so we have all of these twigs and bird spit and dirt and all this shit just hanging off the light. The light's a mess. They keep stacking more branches and those keep falling. So that's created a giant pile and mess. And the dog just keeps wanting to stand on the back deck and just sniff this. And then the birds keep getting mad at me. And then they keep chirping at me and chirping at the dog. And then the dad today was like puffed up on my back porch. And then he kept pacing back and forth at me as I stared at him through the door. So yeah, I don't know how long this madness is going to keep going on, but I keep yelling at them to build the nest in the tree that's adjacent to the deck, and they won't do that. They want that fucking light. So
So your happy place is other species misery.
a little bit, you know what? If I have to keep working, why shouldn't they? It is the most ass backwards game of Jenga that's happening on my porch right now, and I can't do a single thing about it. If you can learn how to talk to birds, you let me know. But they won't fucking stop, man. Shane, what is your save for the moment?
My save. I'm gonna go with going out to the gun range lately.
That's comforting.
Boy, we are really positive people. No, I think it's just stresses of your everyday work life. It feels good to go out to the range and just kind of zero in and take some shots and just, dude, there's just something so satisfying about rifling out 30 rounds and just a 5.56, just one right after the other, just bam, 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 bam. That is like cathartic on a level that I can't begin to describe. It's a weird happy place, but that's definitely what's keeping me a little more sane right now. That sounds awful. Now that I'm saying it out loud, that just sounds terrible. But I enjoy it.
You don't work for the post office, do you?
No, we're good there. We're good there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're good. Then we're gravy. Keep on moving.
So, Drew, we talked a little bit before we started recording about what we wanted this episode to be about. And I think we came to a nice little agreement that for more introductory purposes and letting the people know, like, who we are, I thought we'd go over, like, our best, our favorite, our happiest, whatever word you want to attach to it of 40K. We'll also visit the dark side of 40K. So, what would you say is your favorite game that you've ever played? And now I'm not going to expect you to remember every tiny detail because we've been playing for many years, but there's definitely moments in a game that stands out above the rest for you. What would that be for you?
That first game where I got to finally play Dark Eldar, I think was my favorite game.
That was against me too, wasn't it? That was,
It was.
yeah. I know where we're going with this because I had Justicare Thon. He was an
Yes, you did.
active character that could be played in the game. I knew where this was going. We're all about to taste some pennies.
Yeah. You see an army and you're like, there's always one that draws you in. And for me, it was Dark Eldar. Back in the late third edition, I was literally told by the guy at the store, hey, you don't want to buy them. And I was like, why? He's like, well, the models are metal. They suck. Like, they're a pain to build. It's an expensive army. All of their stuff is hard to get. So I was like, oh, okay. So finally, like, fifth edition, a whole range got redone, new codex. I was like, this is.
I remember your excitement leading up to this, like vividly. Like you could see your erection from space, and it made the
Yes.
Dark Eldar very high, very proud.
I was in character. But the hobby store that we used to go to, they actually got their codex in like a week early. and he would let us come in, like, and you could read it in the store. He couldn't sell it to you until the launch date, but I would be in there every single day, just like looking at the models and reading the codex. And like, I was literally building my first army before, like, I bought the codex and the models day one, and then I think that first game we played, I didn't even have everything assembled yet.
Yeah, everything was like piecemealed.
Yeah, I had like half built raiders. Like, I had the bases of boats glued to stands, and that was it. But that first game, long story short, the army played just like I hoped. You and I always have a blast playing with you. And you had Justicare Thawne,
God damn
who
it.
is a character that if he gets killed,
Yeah.
he doesn't stay out of the game forever.
Nope.
You lay him down, and then on like a 4+, he gets back up. Well, I hadn't played against him yet. And poor Justicare Thawne went down. He went down the first time to a Dark Lance,
Yeah.
which is like an anti-tank weapon, and just eviscerated him.
It's important to note that he was all alone in this game. Like, he was marching his way to just kind of secure an objective, and he happened to be by a tech marine who was getting overwhelmed, and
Well, like,
the horrors of
oh yeah,
war.
because was somebody else was there playing Space Marines, I think, or was it you?
No, I had a tech
you
marine
had
for
Orbital
my
Bombardment.
Grey Knights. I had a tech marine for my Grey Knights.
That's fucking right. Yeah, so Thawne went down from a Dark Lance, and normally that just evaporates somebody. And you laid him down, and I was like, "He's gonna eat out," and you're like, "Well, no, he gets up on a 4+." And I was like, "All right," like, that poor bastard. And you're like, "What?" And I was like, "What? That motherfucker ain't getting up normal. Like, he just got hit by an anti-tank laser. He's standing up, his ears are ringing. Somebody shit his pants. The man's tasting pennies. He is disoriented." So Thawne,
Where am I?
what's going on? What happened? So the following round on your turn, you roll like a 5. Thawne stands back up,
And I'm like,
move 6 inches to charge, or to move it into cover, so he can like
yeah, because
do like a retaliatory charge.
He's getting ready. He's prepping. I remember this.
Yes, and then you had your tech marine try to orbital bombard a squad of men that were trying to advance on them.
Fucking getting close on that tech marine, so he was calling it in danger close.
And the way that in 5th edition they still used scatter dice, so you would have this big template. They call it a pie plate, and you put the pie plate over my squad of guys, and then you scattered, so like it moved X amount of inches in a different direction. So the tech marine got like fucking wanged in the side of the head and jerked his little like wrist button, and orbital bombarded Thawne again. So Thawne charges valiantly, like from the like his like raider or his like fucking rhino, gets zapped, falls down, stands up, disoriented, stumbles forward behind a rock, only to, like, everything around him is just blinding light, and he just looks up, and then he just fucking got evaporated again, and then he stood up a third time. And then I think I darted him in the neck, and then he got poisoned. Like, that man. And then, like, you read his codex description, and it's like, he's the most valiant warrior, and nothing can strike him down. And he became like the fucking Black Knight from Monty Python.
How about you?
The entire time, that man's life was pain,
dude.
And so I was so happy that my army was awesome, and it was everything I hoped for. And I was so excited to watch the meat pinata that was Thawne just get repeatedly beaten.
one of my favorite moments of that too was he still got into combat with your guys, and he would take like 1 or 2 down, and then you just like slap him down, and he'd be down for a minute. You'd move on, he'd get back up, and you'd be like, "Get back over here! I'm not done with you." And he'd come at you again, and you guys would be like, "That guy's still get the fuck away from us."
Yeah, my witches at the time, yeah, because they had like a 4+ invone save, and yeah, Thawne would like get up and just tears in his eyes, not even able to see, would just swing at him and take like 2 down, and then 15 knives would get jammed into his chest, and then he would fall down, and then he'd stand back up, like spit out some teeth, and be like, "Bunch of pussies, I ain't done with you yet. I ain't hear no bell.
I ain't hear no
Bring
bell."
it on." that was the life and times of Justicare Thawne.
Dude. Oh,
that was probably my absolute favorite game. I'll never forget that game.
Oh god, yeah, that's
Shane, what was your favorite?
that one ranks up there for sure. But because you described that one, I don't want to tell the same story twice. So I'm gonna go with a tale of fucking. There was not much going on in this game except for one moment, and it was it's the epitome of why I love this game so much. is the haphazard randomness and chance of it. And do you remember the Apocalypse game that we played? It was a 2v2.
Is this Brass Scorpion?
This is the Brass Scorpion. So Drew's cousin, who is also named Shane, he had taken a painstaking amount of time to kit bash a Brass Scorpion. And for you guys that don't know what that might be, it was an apocalypse only style vehicle. And he had to kit bash like 2 defilers and something else together to make this thing. And he did a fantastic job on this. It looked amazing. He fucking painted it. He did everything that, like, and this is coming from a time when we did not paint our entire armies. We were way too wanting to get this shit on the board and play with it. And he took his time, painted it. It looked amazing. And he was so excited to get it on the table.
This was before 5th edition, because I was playing Tyranid this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like during this time in the game, it was pretty common to like have multiple entries in your codex that just didn't have a model, weren't going to get a model. You had to kit bash it yourself. You had to literally build it from, I'm going to buy a whatever and turn it into this, and there you go.
And that was the Brass Scorpion, man. And this thing was this thing would devastate shit that it shot at. But he didn't get to go first, and that was his downfall. So I had at the time what was called a Vindicare Assassin. He's the fucking sniper, but his old rule set was he did this thing where he could roll the hit, and when he was shooting at this like super heavy, he needed a 6 to penetrate its armor. So I rolled a hit, I get a 6. And then I rolled to do a wound, which I needed a 6 to penetrate the army. He gets another 6. But when he gets that penetrate, he had a special rule that allowed him to roll like, I think it was like 4d6.
Oh, that turbo penetrator?
Yes.
Like that? Yeah.
By the way, I'm a child and I still giggle every time I hear the word turbo penetrator. Because that's amazing. So he takes the hit and he's like, it's fine. It'll be all right. So then I get the penetrate and he's like, it'll be okay. And then I rolled out my ass on this 4d6, and I do, because that's how many points of armor it penetrated or whatever. Yeah. And I basically annihilated it. So I didn't just destroy it though, because in one shot I killed it. But the Brass Scorpion had a special rule set that said if it's destroyed, you have to roll on a separate chart. And if you roll on this chart, 1 to 2, nothing happens. Like 3 to 4, you got to place the small blast template over it, and it damages anybody nearby it. Oh, but if you roll a 6, it goes like thermonuclear, and you had to take out this, like, what was it, like a 12-inch disc? Or it was 15-inch disc? It was the Apocalypse size.
It was the Apocalypse, like, pie plate, essentially, like large round.
It was like
blast marker,
15 inches in diameter.
It was
and
like
you had to lay it over the top of the thing that got blown up, and then anything under that was also taking like a strength 10 hit at AP 4, like annihilates your armor, kills you out. Like anything underneath that pie plate was gonna die. And so he rolls for his first save to see if he saves out of it, and he rolls a 1, so he whiffs his fucking save. And so he needed 2 6s for this thing to go like thermo.
Yeah.
And he rolls back-to-back 6s on it and literally just like blows up a chunk of his army, all from a single shot. The very first shot of the game.
Yep.
That one to me was like, I was just so excited, and he was so depressed. like he was so excited to get that thing out there, and I just went, nope, it's gone. That's it for that.
Which is common.
Whatever your new fancy thing is, it's going away.
Yep. Because people look at it and say, new and different. I don't like it. Dead.
Yeah. It's like, well, that's a mighty nice looking model you got there. Be a shame if somebody were to destroy it.
Oh, man. My favorite part of that game, besides you blanking the Brass Scorpion first turn, first shot, was the match where we had that force field generator in the center of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys on the team that we were playing sent a squad of guys in to take that generator and I had set a squad of gene stealers to
Oh, that's right.
ambush. That was my ambush territory or spot, and so he got his entire squad in there, all shoved nice and neat, so they were all within the fucking
In the terrain space.
yeah, into the force field. I think that was like Flash Gits or something like that, like the one of the real shooty orc squads.
Yep.
And I was like, and activate my ambush, and then just decimated him. And he's like, what the fuck is that? He's like, that's fucking crazy. And I was like, well, don't put a nuclear generator in a forest. I was like, you're gonna fuck the squirrels up. Man, that's what got you. And he didn't appreciate that, but
No.
oh, that was a fun game.
Think, thinking of things that we don't appreciate. Now we're gonna take the darker turn. We'll pick one game where it was just like, this is bad. This is not fun. I didn't enjoy this. There was no funny story to come out of this. It just kind of
Yeah, there was a game we played where one of the guys that used to play in our group, whatever the new meta army was, whatever was doing really well in the tournaments at the time, that would be what he would buy.
and build it exactly like it was supposed to be built.
Yes. So, 40K, it was like our poker night. So it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to get together this Saturday night. We're going to get together and play. And it takes, you got to invest some time, build your list, gather your stuff, take the time to play. You're talking a couple hours and everything. So, like, you and I always made sure we enjoyed it when we did it because you're talking a couple hours of your time. So,
Yeah.
want to have fun. And, he came in just with a hyper serious competitive army. And you and I don't build them like that. We don't play
Right.
it that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun when you win, but I mean, honestly, there have been games where I've gotten destroyed and it's still cracked me up because something hilarious has happened. So it was he played demons, which at the time chaos demons were like the army, and I think I was completely tabled by like turn 2.
You had like a couple things, but yeah, you were so gutted, you were useless.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, like I get it, you're gonna win, like, but you were probably gonna like regardless. Like, dude, you brought like look, even just looking at his army versus mine, and he was explaining how like, well, this synergizes with this, and this gets this bonus, and this gets that bonus. Oh yeah, this is nasty. This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
and you're just
at the
like you're
time,
just kind of sitting there going, all right, well,
yeah, like, this was like I
cool.
think seventh edition. Dark Eldar hadn't really been updated at this point.
Yeah, you
And
were still waiting on a new edition yet, and so
yes,
we were
and there
and we were both kind of out of date.
yeah, like my Archon, like he had a like a power lance, and the power lance wasn't even in their rule. Like it was like a generic power weapon from the main rule book at the time. So I mean, I was just like I was going off of like my raiders. The whole thing about Dark Eldar is they move fast and then they can shoot. Well, in that edition, before they got their codex that said, yeah, they can still do that, they got like they got screwed over by some rules. So it's like, oh, like if they move more than 5 inches or 6 inches, then you only hit on sixes, you snap fire. So like you took my super fast zoomy army and made it to where like they're driving hover go-karts, and
And they're already
they
paper
were
mache anyways. So
they're already paper mache, and because they were open topped, like nobody got cover saves from template weapons. They hit like everybody in there. So my army wasn't by any means was not competitive, and that game sucked. Like you and I were trying to make the most of it, but man, like I think you were dead turn 3 after like I was out too, and I just looked at you and I was like, hope you don't mind holding the fort down.
yeah,
And I
and I
think
and when I play Grey Knights, if anybody out there is familiar with the Grey Knights, they are not they're a powerful army without a doubt, but they are not a foothold army. They piecemeal their fucking points together as best they can. Now this current edition, we'll get to that in a minute, but this current edition, they're a lot better at that. But old editions, they sucked at holding points. They were point heavy. They were a point heavy army, so you only had 2 or 3 units that could really hold objectives. The rest were kind of there to beat the shit out of things when they can walk in and just wreck your normal guys who are supposed to hold the fucking fort down. And then you're just left like the rest of my guys couldn't do anything. At the time they couldn't take objectives in that edition. So I just
yeah,
had like half my army was meant to bolster your defense essentially. Like they weren't meant to hold the points. Your army was meant to hold the points, and I was there to be the hammer. Like I was, or anvil, whichever metaphor works better for you. But I was meant to be your block wall. Like I was meant to like keep you protected while you hold the points. We gather the point. We get our points, our victory points. Wow, that'll be a great game. No.
yeah, and like we had never played against somebody that was that hyper competitive before.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it took a game that I absolutely loved, and I was miserable because I mean, I was there for like 3 hours, and I think I only had about an hour and a half of actual game time and that was concluding setup. I think that was the game though, or maybe we played a second one shortly after that.
Yeah, I
Was
think we
was
rushed a game back together, like kind of piecemealed a quicker game.
Yeah, like you and I, and still had fun. But
Yeah.
yeah. So that for me, I mean, anything where one person is super hyper competitive, I'm out. I just don't play that style. So not a
Right.
tournament player.
Yeah.
All
No,
right,
the
Shane.
same. Not a tournament player.
Yeah.
Um,
What about yourself?
that game was a downer for sure. I'm trying to think of another one there. I don't think you were around for this one. I think this is a game that I played with your cousin and then two other guys. And I remember dealing with the two other guys. They didn't play hyper competitive lists. They played Death Star lists. If you're not familiar with that
Mm.
terminology, Death Star lists are where you build your entire army around one unit. And this unit is a killer. Like it's a blob of guys or one individual guy who's just protected to all hell. And their entire thing is this unit will win you the game. So, kind of knowing that and having played some other games, I was kind of going in there a bit more prepared and a little bit bitter and a little bit more ass chapped because I'm like, great, I get to do another round of this bullshit. Like, so I was like, fine, I'm gonna fucking do one. So I built a 10-man paladin unit with a fucking Drago in the center. That's a fucking Death Star unit of Grey Knights. Those things, they'll wreck. They will wreck anything. So they were pissed when they heard that I brought that in. But it was over 3/4 of my army's points was that one unit. So I didn't have a whole lot to play with after that. But I was like, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to go in and I'm going to hit them hard and it's going to be great. But the edition we were playing, you still had to scatter when you deep struck in. Like you'd set a model down and then you had to roll for scatter. And he rolled into a wall. Well, you can't teleport into a wall. That's not allowed. All I had to do was not roll a one or a two. That's all I had to fucking do. Because then they would have just fucked off back to the warp for a little bit and come in later. No, I rolled a one, obliterated the unit. It was just gone. Like it just died outright. So I lost the entire unit. And the rest of the game, I just sat there going, well, that sucked. And like, like I think I had like two, maybe three units. And it's like, I had a good laugh about it. Like I wasn't too butthurt about it. I was like, I gambled all and I lost. That's on me. But it still sucked. It was still a boring game. There was one highlight to that game, and that was when my teammate of the game was running Burna trucks, which is an orc tactic where you would load up a bunch of Burnas in a truck and just drive them around. And because trucks were open top, all the guys could shoot out and they all had flamethrowers. So you just drive up next to something and then lay 12 exact same flame templates over a unit and just murder them.
Yeah, you would lay the single flame template, and then however many guys had that weapon, you just multiplied the like however many that template was hitting, and you could just say, "Oh yeah, they're all firing out of the exact same weapon port."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so he had a 10-man unit of Orc Burnas. This other guy had his Death Star unit of Dark Angels, and he fucking marked like he had what the hell are the Dark Angels guys?
Was it Deathwing?
Deathwing, that's it.
Yeah.
So he parks him right next to the truck, and the guy goes, "Okay, well here we go," and he just goes, "Boom, boom, boom," and he just dropped, and he had lined his guys up just right, where every guy was getting hit. He got hit with 10 flame templates all at once. Basically, I think he was left with 2 Deathwing Terminators when it was all said and done, and he literally fucking pouted in the corner like he didn't want to talk to fucking anybody. He had no idea what he had just walked up to. He didn't know that it was existing. And I think it was right around that time where me and you decided no more secret keeping when it comes to your lists. Explain what the fuck that shit does at the beginning of the game so they know going in, hey, this can happen if just to let you know, because I think we both agree that it's shady and underhanded.
Yeah.
If you don't know my codex and I don't know your codex, it's shady and underhanded for me to bring something in like, that's just this guy. Don't worry about him. And then he actually has some special rule that fucks you up. And I just
Yeah.
wait for you to fall into that trap so I can go, ha ha ha, gotcha.
Yeah, because you and I mean, we played the same armies forever, so we kind of like learned each other's armies along with our own together. So we never really had that issue. And then playing with people that would do that, I don't know. That's like cheating the system.
That's kind of shit that, again, comes off more competitive than it comes off casual friendly to me.
Yes.
I don't necessarily get too mad at them, but at the same time, it's like, dude, come on, we're just trying to play a pick me up game. That'd be like me and you going to the basketball court, and I'm like, hey, my buddy's gonna come join in. Why don't you bring a friend, and we'll just do a quick pick me up game? And you're like, all right, cool. 2v2, me and my buddy versus you and your buddy, and I show up with fucking Michael Jordan, and I'm like, oh, that's my buddy, and you're like, no, that's not a fucking pick me up game, dude. That's a secret fucking weapon that I had no idea you were gonna bring. Why would you do that? Another game that came to mind, and I'm only going to briefly talk about it. It was the one where there's a chaos demon, and I had my Imperial. This was in my Imperial Guard army, and he was flying around, just devastating. Like I couldn't stop him. So I was
Oh
like,
my god, you and I were on the same team that
yes,
game.
yeah. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna fire at him with my las guns. Now las guns don't do dick against anything.
They're nicknamed flashlights.
And I shot his demon, and it was flying, so I could only hit on sixes. So I only hit like 3 shots. And I could only wound on 6s. What's that?
I said, was it a bloodthirster?
Yeah, it was like a bloodthirster demon, and he was just fucking marching all over God's green earth, and I was just like, fuck it, men, take your shots, because he's coming towards them anyways, and he's gonna kill them all, so fuck it.
Yeah, he took to the skies, and so you unleashed a horde of laser pointers in his face.
Well, I just like to think that one of those laser pointers, because I had to hit on 6s, I could only wound him on 6s, and then if he failed his armor check, which was only a 2+, and then if he failed that, because he was flying, this was 7th edition, he had to do like a crash and burn. Like on a 1, he would crash back to the earth and take more damage. And I'll never forget it, because I'm like basically shining lasers up there, and I must have hit him in the eye or something, because he got blinded, and he was like all angry at me. But then he lost control of himself, and he came plummeting back to the ground.
You zap fried his eyes, his corneas, and then he crash landed on my boat, and then proceeded that following turn to just carve through like half of my witches.
But he died like a turn later after all that. Like he got so badly damaged from the fall. I just remember it was just like this hilarious, again, a series of like shouldn't have happened dice rolls.
Yeah.
And just fucking by some grace of the Emperor, the demon crashed to earth. I was laughing so hard at that, because I was like, oh my god, it worked.
Yeah, because that following shooting phase that I had, after he got done.
Oh yeah, you darted the shit out of him.
I darted the shit. I tranked his ass hardcore. It was we got full Jurassic Park on him, and then we tranked the big monster until it fell back asleep.
Shit. Then that's if you can't tell, this shit happened years ago, and we still can remember this stuff, and that's like the moments that we live for in the game.
Yeah, I was so happy when it landed on my boat, because I was like, I yelled Flickerfield, because I had a 5 at the time. My boats had a 5+ in-bone save, and I think I rolled like a 2, and then I was like, oh, they're all dead. Because you were like, don't they get a save? And I was like, no, it's open top. At the time, I was still hamstrung by that open top rule. So
oh god, yeah, that's right.
I rolled like I don't even know what it was. I had to roll like X amount of dice or something like that. It was like 6 witches in the boat just evaporated along with the boat itself.
Oh, they're all gone. Oh no, not again.
Landed on my space canoe.
Oh man. Shit. So as I had mentioned a little bit earlier, like the state, I think I mentioned like 9th edition and where Grey Knights are. I think it'd be a nice thing just to touch kind of quickly on where the game is at currently. I'll ask Drew here in a second, but I personally, I've really enjoyed 9th edition. It can be a bit daunting. Feels like as I'm building an army list, the facts are being updated. Like like, oh, my army's almost built. Fact came out. Fuck! I'll restart it. I start building another one. They fact it again. So there's a lot of information coming out. They're doing by far their best at balancing the game than they ever have. They're addressing things more quickly. GW back in the day, it was Death Seer units for the Eldar, the guys that rode on the jet bikes, and they had like a 3+ invone.
Something like that. They're like crazy. Their Death Star unit that would just hover around.
Yeah, and it was like
Yeah.
everybody's like, guys, this is broken. They're like, yeah, yeah, we'll get to it. Now it's like, hey, guys, this seems a little off. They're like, ooh, we're on it. Fuck it. Yeah, here's a new rule for it.
Yeah, they didn't have
Um,
FAQs that I knew of at the time, I don't think.
they had some facts in fourth edition, but it was like broad. Like it was facts to the core rule book, and if your army book was fucked over because of that fact that the mess with the core rules, fuck you. Too bad. You're gonna have to live with it.
That was back like when they used to put the author of the codexes, and then Matt Ward was in charge of like the fifth edition. I think it was
Oh yeah.
the Necron redo,
He did
and
the
then like
Necron, he did the Grey Knights.
and everybody was like, "What the hell is this? They're too overpowered. They're
Yep.
crazy." And then Matt Ward got like a bunch of death threats, and then Games Workshop stopped putting authors on the codexes.
Yes, yes, that's true.
That's literally that's all. That all actually like is how that happened.
Because I'm pretty sure he still works there. It's just no, like he just doesn't get talked about anymore. Like, well,
I
I
was
don't
just
know who
gonna say,
wrote
yeah,
that book.
yeah. They're like, oh no, I don't know. Nobody wrote
Um,
that.
so I mean, I personally, I've been a big fan of the ninth edition. I think the codexes have been just phenomenal. In comparison, way more flavor to them. And when I say flavor, I mean in a game perspective. There's always been flavor to the lore, but personally, me, I'm not. I like the lore, but I like having fun with the lore. I like making a little bit of jokes with the lore. I don't take it very seriously like some people do. Where I want the flavors, I want it in the gameplay. I want to feel like I've got a little bit more control, and I can make it a little bit more my army and how I want my army to operate. So now Grey Knights get brotherhoods that you got like 7 different brotherhoods you can pick from that you run it as, and then there's even more, you know, adjust like customization to the characters. I don't know. I'm really enjoying it personally.
Yeah,
I would ask you what's your thoughts on the current edition?
I like this edition so far. It's intimidating to get into because I dropped out at seventh when I moved, and so now I skipped eight and I'm jumping right into nine. And
Yeah,
it was like
I
our first game. You were like, "Here's my codex, and then here's my set of cards that go with my army." And I was like, "What are those?"
they make life so much easier. Get your cards. If you get when you get an army, get the fucking card set. I know it sounds stupid, just fucking do it though. They're totally worth the money.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, you have all of these different like command points, and then you can do these different actions during your turn and possibly during my turn. And I was just like, holy crap! Like there is like you got your main rule book, you got your codex, but okay, there are these cards, and then there are like campaign books now, and conquest mode.
Dude, conquest mode is like my wet
we
dream.
we have tried to
I have
make our own
yes,
conquest mode since fourth edition. We have tried to homebrew it so many times.
and they nailed it. They
They
nailed it.
finally got it, and it's fantastic. So yeah, so for me, like it's funny. It's like I looked at it and I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But then you look at the cards and I was like, oh okay, these are literally there to make it so you don't have to keep flipping to different tables and that in your rule book. They're just
Yep.
there to make it so you have to do less rule flipping. I was like, that's awesome.
Especially
You
psychic powers. Oh shit. You gotta
Yes,
if you got psychic powers, fucking get those cards because those
yes,
cards are gonna make it. You literally just like lay them down in front of you so you know what psychic powers you have. And then you can take the card and you can place it. Oh, I'm gonna cast Hammer Hand on this unit. Okay, they got it. And since I can only cast it once, I can just lay it down on that unit. Like boom.
yep,
I know that I don't need a dice marker. It just that card goes there.
yep, yeah, and it actually made the game simpler. Like it was intimidating at first, and I was like, oh okay, like that's not scary. I mean,
Stratagems, like
the
there's oh my god,
stratagems,
get the
yes, like
cards, guys, get the fucking cards.
and so like you have even got your son into the game
Yes,
this edition,
yes.
and I think that's a testament to the fact that like
He
he has
he is 11, guys. He's
and
11,
is
and he picks the
yeah,
game up pretty well. He's still, I mean, he's 11, so he still has his hiccups, but I got him a Necron army, and he's super into it. He loves getting down and playing. His only issue is he wants to just rush it. He wants to build the biggest army possible and bring it to the table. I'm like, dude, you gotta learn the basics, bud.
yeah. But I mean, the fact that you can have an 11-year-old learning this game, which back when I first got into it, I think I was like 16, and I was like, I'm so out of my like I'm way over my head here.
You're out of your fucking element, Donnie.
So yeah, ninth edition so far. I'm happy with it.
So before we bounce out, I'm just going to take this moment. I'm going to probably do this quite a bit, at least in the first few, but I definitely want to send out special thanks to Astralborn. That's my friends Paul, Derek, and Jason for doing our amazing intro music. It's literally the most professional thing you're going to hear throughout this entire fucking podcast ever. We're never going to be that like professional sounding. So I want to always make sure I take time to thank them. They did that totally pro bono, and I appreciate that eternally. So Drew, before we go though, last week you asked me
Oh, the
a
question of the day.
the question of the day. So, but I've got one for you. This
Oh,
is this is kind of like if God, heated a burrito, could he himself not hold it? Like, one of those conundrums. So,
hmm,
Corn, he's like the god of murder. Like he loves death and killing, right?
yes.
We can establish that.
Hmm.
Slanish, god of excess and pleasure,
Hmm.
loves the hard sex, right? If you tell, listen, I'm getting somewhere with this. If you told Corn to murder that pussy of Slanish, what would happen?
Oh, I'm Drew.
I'm Shane, and this has been another episode of 40K Murdering.